Don't quit. Just don't quit. If you're tired, that's life. This planet is not meant for us to have a good time or an easy time. Yeah, a good time, but not an easy time. So if you are tired, you're feeling down, if you're right at the bottom and you feel like eating a bullet, don't quit. Don't quit. Don't do it. And here's why. The storm passes. The storm always passes. It does. It doesn't matter how big the hurricane is, how intense the tornado is. The storm always passes. It does. I felt like giving up. I did. A lot of us do. And it has nothing to do with being a combat veteran or anything like that. It's just life. It's how this life is. This life is not easy. It isn't. And when you get older, it gets more and more difficult to be hopeful. I'm 48. I'm rebuilding my life from zero. Rebuilding it from a complete and utter collapse. But I keep going. I keep going no matter what. I keep going mostly for my kids, if I'm going to be straight. My kids keep me going more than anything else. And it feels like it's hopeless sometimes. It does. And I know you feel that way too, every now and then. Hopefully not as often as I have. And hopefully you have some sort of resources. But I wanted to talk to you today because not everybody has these resources. I am so fucking blessed. I am so lucky that when I was at the bottom of the barrel and scraping, and every minute of every day I was thinking about blowing the back of my head off just to make it stop, just to say I'm tapping out, I'm done. People don't understand that if they're not plagued by it personally. And good for you. Awesome. If you've never been that low where your greatest desire in the world is to stop living, if you've never been there, good. And you've got nothing to bitch about. You really don't. Because if you find yourself complaining about life and, oh, poor me, but you've never fantasized about ending your life, if you've never been plagued by those thoughts of how, what, where, when, why, and how to end your life, if you've never been there for an extended period of time, you've got fuck all to complain about. But for those of you that have been plagued by these thoughts and yet somehow you survived them, you got through the other side, you didn't take it to that one extra level. When you're on the cliff, on the edge, nobody gave you that little push. If you're a survivor like I am, I wanted to tell you a story. Here's why you don't quit. This is obviously not planned out. I felt this urge to share with you because I know I'm not alone. I know this because there are suicides all the time in my own inner circle, and not just the military circle. This world is a tough fucking place. It's just all there is to it. And that's what it's supposed to be. This isn't supposed to be an easy go. This world is like a purgatory. It's a testing ground. It's a testing ground to find out what you're made out of. And the shitty stuff is the good stuff. What are you most proud of in your life? What's the biggest thing you've ever overcome? When you go back to that and you think about that, you roll that back in your head and you think about the toughest thing you've ever done in your entire life. But you did it and you got it done and you succeeded. That's the best stuff. I was an infantry soldier, and in the infantry, you really get tested. Holy shit. Battle school, 16, 18 weeks, whatever it was. Battle school is a place. There we go. Battle school is a place where you find out just how hard you can push. I can't believe I graduated from it, to be honest. Pretty sure I was bottom of the class. But we started with 18 people in battle school. PPCLI battle school in Wainwright. 18 is what we started with. That was the beginning of the course. 16 weeks later, we graduated with 5 of us. 5 of us on in the little indoor parade square for the ceremony. My parents only lived a couple hours away, so they were the only ones that showed up for the ceremony. Got our coin, and away you went. And of course, the parents have absolutely no idea of what it actually meant to graduate from that shit. But we made it. One of the reasons I'm so surprised I actually graduated is that I didn't want to fucking be there. No, not even a little. When I joined the military, the idea was I'm going to be a medic. That's more my style. I like helping people, not shooting them. So I'll be a medic. I'll patch them up instead of taking their lives. The whole idea of being a highly trained killer was not easy on me. Not at all. It messed me up pretty bad. And I was a bag of hammers anyway, because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what my capabilities were. I had zero self-esteem. And when I joined the military, it was just because I knew I had to do something. So I was a complete jerk-off in high school. And I knew that I was going nowhere fast. After high school, I was working at Tim Hortons Donuts, wearing my tight purple polyester pants. And although I made that work. Oh yeah, I was looking good in those purple polyester pants. All the girls were lined up for me. And when I was working the night shift in Tim Hortons, I was listening to at 2 a.m. to the regulars that were there all the time. That's why they're regulars. They're there all the time. And the older they got, the better they were. And they'd tell stories of days gone by, all working at some local factory or refinery. All of them fucking miserable. Miserable and proud of really nothing that they'd ever done in their life. No achievements to speak of. Was friends with one of them. But all in all, a bunch of old, bitter folks full of regret. It was those people at the Tim Hortons, my regular customers on the night shift, that had me decide, ooh, that's going to be me if I don't make a move. I better do fucking something. And I didn't know what, because I was such a dick in high school. I didn't graduate until I was 20 years old. I can't believe they didn't kick me out and make me get a GED or something, but I took the frickin' scenic route, let me tell you. I failed grade 4 and I failed grade 9. The reason I failed, though, had nothing to do with intelligence. It wasn't intellect. It wasn't IQ. It wasn't capacity. It was self-esteem. And I was told back in wherever it was, grade 2, you're a slow learner. Well, when you tell that to a kid who's like 10 years old, that they're a slow learner, just like Santa Claus, they believe it. You tell them that's the way it is, they believe that that's the way it is. And being ADHD is all get out. I gave up. And despite all the markers, despite all the tests I took and everything else, that I was not a slow learner. I was just bored. It didn't matter. That was the label I took with me right till grade 12. And then Ernie Zutz was my grade 12 social studies teacher. Ernie Zutz. And I don't even know if the dude's still alive, but I did have a chance, thank God, probably 10, 12 years ago. I did have a chance while I bumped into him at some town council event or whatever it was. And I walked up to Ernie and said, I highly doubt you remember me, but I remember you. And I just got to tell you, you are the one teacher out of the entire 12-year school experience that did something for me. And what it was this. So I just glad that I was able to thank him. But here's what Ernie did. Big man. Big, strong man. And everybody freaking loved him. He wasn't a warm, fuzzy guy, so I don't know why everybody loved him, but they did. He was a popular guy. When he retired, it was a big deal. And the whole school cheered for him. And but I had the privilege of having him as my social 30 teacher, my grade 12 teacher. And we did whatever project it was, and I was such a jerk off in class. I just didn't give a shit in the first semester. There's 2 semesters for it in total. And hang on. So at this point, my average in the class for the first semester was 37%. 37%. I just wasn't even showing up. Just bullshit. No effort, but it's because 10 years prior I was given the label of slow learner. So I was playing the part. I was told I was a slow learner, so I'm acting like a slow learner. Anyway, this Ernie was doing his rounds, handing back the paper or the essay, whatever it was. And when he came to my desk, he looked at the sheet and he hung his head. He went and handed it to me. Just couldn't even look at me. He was so disgusted or disappointed or whatever it was. And it was that look of disappointment in Ernie Zutz's face when I took that picture and saw my mark, whatever it was, probably right in line with that whole 37%. When I saw that, I made an instant decision in that moment. Because I like this guy. He's a nice guy. But I made a decision that never again will I ever see that look on Ernie's face again. Just not going to do it. And then it was just like, not for any other subject, just for social studies. But because of that moment that has meant so frickin' much in my life, that I started studying. Actually studying. And I went from the biggest frickin' bonehead in class to the number one guy the whole second semester of it. There was 2 semesters of social 30, if I remember correctly. There's 2 halves anyway for the term. But the second half, if I wasn't the top mark in the class, I was top 2 every single time. It became this little competition. It's like, man, nobody can beat Mark. So apparently I'm not an idiot. When I actually buckle down and try, I did all right. But I don't think I was the smartest kid in class. I'm pretty sure I tried harder than anybody else, though. And I remember my dad, who's like, what are you doing right now? Are you studying? What the hell? You never study. So, yeah, well, I'm studying for this. And anyway, I was in the 90s and 100% on everything for the whole second year, but for the second half of the term. But the first half, I was 37%, so I had a long way to bring it up. I ended up with 78% by the end of the year. So I would have been like 96 or something like that, or 98, had I done that the whole way through. But I didn't. It was that moment, though, that realization that, holy shit, that label that was given to me 10 years ago of being a slow learner, maybe they're full of shit. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe I'm something more. But because the way my life was at the time, and there was really no other parts of my life where there was some sort of reinforcement of the idea that I wasn't a moron. It was a nice little clue, but it didn't really stick. It didn't change my self-esteem. It just gave me a clue that maybe, just maybe, I'm worth just a little bit more than I thought I was. Anyway, after high school, working at Tim Hortons, got the regulars, didn't want my life to go that direction. So I thought, I'm joining the military. Go through the process, and the whole time was to be a medic. That was the idea. And then I had this going away party. I had this going away party that was pretty good. I think I got laid, if I remember right. But the Gulf War had just broken out before this going away party. What I thought I heard from the recruitment office was that February 11th, you're gone. Okay, well, off we go. So had the the going away party. Then after that, I hadn't heard from anybody. So I thought, what's going on? I better go check this out because I haven't heard any updates. Of course, there's no internet. There's no email. 1990 at the time. And so I go down to the downtown Edmonton, the recruiting office, and I just happened to see the guy that I thought told me that I was in. I was shipping out February 11th. I'm like, hey, over here. Hey, over here. Hey, remember me? And he comes, hey, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, I'm shipping out on the 11th to go be a medic for the Army. So what do I need to know? What do I got to get ready? I haven't heard from you guys. And he's like, oh, no, I'm sorry, you misunderstood. You competed for the position. You didn't actually get it. You're going nowhere. Oh my God. I've never felt this sensation before. It actually felt like my body melted and poured into my boots. Like I just felt myself sink and collapse. It's like I turned to liquid and I just splashed on the floor. I'll never forget that sensation. I've never felt it since. It was just So I took a second to collect myself. I looked up at him, looked him in the eye, and says, well, I'm going because I've already had the going away party. So pick something else. What do you got? I'll take it. I don't give a fuck. We're going. And he looked at me. Recruiter's dream. Well, we got the infantry. I said, great, I'll take it. What is it? I had no idea. Even though I was in Army Cadets, I really wasn't sure what and he said, well, the infantry, you carry a rifle and you go on a lot of long walks, carrying a backpack and do a bunch of shooting, and it's kind of like camping. It's kind of like camping, except you do some shooting. I said, okay, I can do that. He says, it's also the kind of the toughest thing you can do. okay, if I'm going to join the Army, I might as well, not take any half measures. Let's go. Infantry it is. And he said, it's going to be the PPCLI. I said, don't know what that is, but okay, let's do that. And well, it means Western Canada. I said, well, I'm an Albertan, so okay, Western Canada, let's do it. And off I went. Not a clue what I was getting myself into. And then when I was in basic training in Cornwallis, Nova Scotia, when you're in basic, it's 10 weeks of all the trades, whether it's Air Force, Navy, Army, doesn't matter. At least it didn't. They're all there. And it's all open concept, bunk houses, and all the other people that are Air Force or Navy or whatever they are, they're like, you're going in the infantry? You're crazy. So that had me a little nervous prior to battle school, but to get through basic training, oh my God, I was terrified. Fucking terrified every day of getting recoursed. So recoursed is, let's say, a 10-week program. Let's say you get it to week 7. And after 7 weeks of that, they go, yeah, you suck. Back to week 1 and start again. Oh, never happened to me, but I was terrified of it every day. And did all right. I did a good job. By the time we graduated, I was still scared. I was still scared of getting recoursed because I didn't want to do it twice. No, thank you. Not twice. No, thank you. So it wasn't until we were on the bus, packed up all of our kit, and heading to the airport. As we're pulling out of the base, as we're pulling out of Cornwallis, I finally, the first time in 10 weeks, took a deep breath. I made it. I graduated. Because I'm used to losing. I would always lose at everything. Because that was my self-esteem. That was my self-concept. That Mark doesn't win. Mark just loses. Like a lot. And that's just the way it is. So I failed grade 4. I failed grade 9. I was the last kid picked on every sports team ever. And I was just always used to being dead last and to suck at stuff. So when I didn't get recourse, I watched everybody else, lots of people did. And we call it the happy cart. So they got this wagon, a little wood wagon with all their kit in it. We call it the happy cart. The military has the best names for things. The happy cart is freaking hilarious. But I actually watched people with a happy cart and thought, fully expecting that I would be within that 10 weeks one of the people with the happy cart, but I wasn't, because I guess that's why I'm doing this today, and I'm sharing all this. I was more than I thought I was. I was capable of more than I thought I was capable of. You hear my dog in the background. Stupid dog. It's a great dog, actually. But you're worth more than you think you are, too. I guarantee it. You are worth more than you think that you are worth. That's why I'm making this. I'm making this for you. Because I know I'm not alone. I know that I'm not alone. If you are, doesn't matter what stage of life you are, but I find the older that you get, the more difficult it is to have some hope that there's something better, that there's a reason to keep going. But there is. There is. Anyway, after basic comes battle school, and I was just watching a Joe Rogan show. I love the Joe Rogan podcast. But I was watching it, and there's this guy who was didn't quite get through SEAL training. He had 2 broken legs from stress fractures. Well, that just had me smiling, because in battle school, I had 2 broken legs from stress fractures. Both of them, my tibias on both sides, were 75% cut through. So imagine a tree, and you're cutting through the tree, 3/4 of the way through the tree, and then whatever's left, that's what you're running on. That's what I had. That's what was left of my fucking shins. And yet, prior to battle school, okay, troops, we're going for a run. I'm like, great. Throw on the Cornwallis Cripplers, which is these issued gray sneakers. They're just shit. But off we go for the Ramble Run, which, if I remember right, it was about 5 clicks. So 5 Ks of cross country, up and down and up and down, the Ramble Run. And off we'd go. So and I never fell out, not once. Even with 2 broken legs, I never fell out. I just wouldn't quit. I'm like a badger. But we'd go for this run, and oh my fuck, it hurt. Oh my, well, they're 3/4 of the way busted through. So we're going on the run, and then but a click, and I'm like, whew, okay, that's better, because they'd go numb. So they'd go numb. I'm good. I'm like, all right, now let's go. And I'd be right up there, and away we went. I'd finish the Ramble Run, no problem. I keep up with everybody. But as soon as I stopped, the pain would kick in. I'm like, oh, and I'd flop on my back. And I'm like, could somebody pick me up and carry me to the barracks? And I needed assistance to get to the barracks because the pain kicked in. For some reason, went numb during the run. And then I was on my back on one of the bunks, just like, I'm doing everything I can to not show the pain, but I can't hide it. They're 3/4 of the way busted, each of them. And a sergeant walked in the room and said, yeah, you're going to holding platoon. Holding is like the holding pattern. That's where you're not in course. You're waiting to heal until you can go on course. I'm like, no, Sergeant, I'm fine. You're not fucking fine, fucky. You're definitely not fine. Oh no, yeah, I know this hurts, but I'm okay. Don't kick me off course. Don't kick me off course. And like, yeah, this is not a conversation. You're going to holding platoon. I'm like, oh God. Now, it wasn't a failure because I never started course. But I had to wait for about 8 months, and there was a bunch of us in there in holding platoon. Nothing to do about it. Legs are 3/4 of the way busted, each of them. And by the time we were ready for course, and we got all clear from the doctor, 18 of us started the very last traditional, as far as I remember, 9106? No, 9111. 9106 was my Cornwallis basic training. So 9111 Ypres platoon was the last, as far as I know, the last traditional battle school, which means it sucked balls. Yeah, I think it got a lot easier after that. But anyway, 1991, course 9111, Ypres platoon, and off we go for our 16 weeks with our healed shins. And I wasn't the only one that had a couple of busted legs. My brother, Clint Bader, had the identical thing, and we both had the same healing process, and off we went. But we started the 16 or whatever weeks with 18 people. We graduated with 5. And for all the others that didn't make it, oh man, what a thing to not make it. I feel so bad for them. There's a couple of guys I still keep in touch with today. And it's hard on them. It is so hard on them that they, to no fault of their own, it's just their bodies couldn't do it. Battle school was brutal. And I don't have anything to compare it to. I've never done any other kind of intense training. For me, the toughest part was the sleep deprivation. Holy shit. Defensive X, that's when you're digging in and you're living in a trench for the week. And when we did it, it was February. It was February in Wainwright. So, okay, here you go. Here's a pick. like a pickaxe. Dig a hole about 3 feet wide, about 6 feet long, and about 6 feet deep. And go. The very first swing with like a sharp point on the end of it. And the thing's heavy, right? So the very first swing, dink. This little nugget, this little tiny nugget came flying off. I went, oh, this is going to take a while. 'Cause that's one big ass hole, and all I did with this big mighty swing was get a nugget. It took about 3 days. No sleep. And when I say days, I mean 24-hour days. 24-hour days. Of the two of us, we had 2 per trench, and 3 days of nonstop swing, dink, little nugget goes flying, and 3 days of digging that fucking thing. And by the time it was finally deep enough, wide enough, and long enough, then you build the roof for it, and then you take all the stuff that you pulled out, all the dirt that you pulled out, and you put it on top of the roof. And now you got a defensive trench. So you've been busting ass, digging a hole for 3 days, watching sun go up, sun go down, sun go up, sun go down, sun go up. I'm still digging. And in February. And that's what I was saying earlier, though. Because it sucked, and I mean sucked, that's what made it good. That's what makes it a good memory, because you endured the most unbelievable shit. And it was about 4 days total, I think, with 0 sleep. And I mean 0, like not a second sleep. And we were falling asleep standing up. We're in the trench, and we'd be talking with each other. And we say, okay, so right now, Pam Anderson, sex with Pam Anderson right now, or 20 minutes sleep. Oh, the sleep. Okay, all right. Okay, what would you rather have? Take a crap on a nice warm porcelain toilet indoors, or an hour's sleep? I'll take the sleep. It was just, you'll take the sleep over anything. And you start hallucinating like crazy. If you're not into drugs, great, me neither. But if you want to know what a hallucination is like, stay awake for about 36 hours. At about the 36-hour mark, the hallucinations start kicking in. One guy saw little blue grasshoppers everywhere. I had a Star Wars theme going on, and I freaking near shot at some stormtroopers behind the lines. I swear to God, I looked behind me, and I fucking saw, clear as day, only it was the middle of the night, a bunch of stormtroopers on cross-country skis skiing behind our lines, and I swung over, and I pointed my freaking rifle at them, and with live rounds. And I definitely considered shooting at these guys. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Is that enemy force? Who are these? Like, what the hell? They're stormtroopers. What the hell? I never, ever thought that a hallucination could be so incredibly intense. Another guy hallucinated a bush party at, there's a pile of trees, little bit of forest. And Sophie, come here. And he saw a whole bush party with the patio, lanterns, the whole 9 yards. And hang on, I gotta pause it. And during this bush party, in his hallucination, somebody stopped and looked over at him and waved, and he found himself waving back. The hallucinations are that intense. So if you ever want to know what a kick-ass hallucination looks like, just stay awake for 36 hours. You'll definitely have one. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I graduated, even though I didn't think I deserved to graduate. And it goes back to that label back in grade 2. You're a slow learner. And then how I was raised as well. My familial relationship was less than positive. But I graduated frickin' battle school somehow. I don't know how. It was never recoursed. Somehow I just made it. Years later, I found out after I got out in 95. I did about 4.5 years in the military, including a tour in Croatia during the Croatian Civil War. And years later, I went to college, and after college, I thought, well, I'm going to be a cop now. You got to get this medical clearance. And the cop and the doctor is like, well, your heart murmur. I'm like, yeah, I know I got a heart murmur. I've always had it since I was like 6. So what's the big deal? I made it through the fucking infantry, Now, I was always the most tired guy there, which was really hard on the self-esteem. But I never fell out of any runs, at least not till after my tour. After my tour, I couldn't keep up, and I didn't know why. But turned out my heart was only working half as well as a healthy heart. So I did the infantry, always feeling like I was trying harder than everybody else, and I thought, well, I just must be mentally weak or something. There must be something wrong with me. All the negative self-esteem must be for a reason, because I'm just not as much of a human being as everybody else. But I kept up in the infantry with half a heart. My heart was working twice as hard as anybody else's, and I kept up frickin' anyway. Even though I could taste blood in the back of my mouth, I kept up anyway. So the very thing that was hurting my self-esteem is actually something to be proud of, because I was keeping up when nobody else, when I was working twice as hard, I was keeping up anyway in an extreme environment. I should have been proud of that, but instead I was ashamed. I felt that I was less of a person than other people. And that's the power of perspective right there, folks. Just because you were looking at something a certain way doesn't mean that that's how it is. The very thing that was killing, adding to the pile of killing my self-esteem, was the very thing I should have been totally proud of. So I had heart surgery in 1999. The only guy, because it was life-threatening at this point, the mitral valve was just, the diagnosis was severe prolapse. When you have severe mitral valve, so this is what a heart valve is supposed to do. It's supposed to close like this, but mine wasn't. It was going like this, and so there was backwash in the heart, and that causes sudden death and heart disease, is what the cardiologist told me. So it was life-threatening at this point. I was 29 years old. The only guy in the country that could do a biological repair of a mitral valve was in Toronto. So off I went to frickin' Toronto, by myself for heart surgery. Nobody around me. And I went under the knife with no family, no friends, and 100% thinking I was not going to survive the surgery. I thought it was my last moment on earth. But, of course, I did. Big purple scar down my chest, and off I went for heart surgery. Survived it somehow. But what a difference. I've been good ever since. It's been 19 years since that heart surgery. Heart surgery. And yet I made it through the infantry, thinking that I was always less than everybody around me, when in fact it was pretty amazing that I made it through there, that I was able to keep up. Imagine the mental fortitude it took to work twice as hard in an extreme environment where only 5 out of 18 graduated. And even with half a heart, I was one of them. Kind of cool. And yet, still, really no self-esteem to speak of. Not really. Even after I had this heart surgery and I realized what I had actually accomplished in my life. Graduated a couple of years of college and really still didn't feel like I was worth a hill of beans. Really didn't. A little later on, after a series of different jobs, I ended up at a security company, working at the head office of this security company in their collection department. And a couple of people heard me on the phone in the collection department, and they said, you should be in sales. You're pretty damn good on the phone. And I looked at what the sales guys were making and what I was making, which wasn't much. And I said, okay, that's what I'll do. So I joined the sales department, and right out of the bat, I was the number one guy, which was a bit weird for me because I'm used to being the last guy. But I was the top guy, which was really weird. But because I didn't have the supporting self concept, being top guy didn't last. It lasted 6 months, maybe a year. And then a bunch of other people started surpassing me, which was much more comfortable for me. I was used to being middle of the pack or bottom of the pack, not top of the pack. So being the number one person at anything, just that was not comfortable. When I see this in so many others now, because I've come so far, and I see when other people are feeling this exact same discomfort, this fear of success, this feeling of being a fraud when you're doing really, really well. If you're doing really, really well, it's because you deserve to do really, really well. You're not a fraud. You're not a faker. So if that's how you feel, trust me, it's not true. You deserve what you have. The things that you've achieved, you deserve them, or you wouldn't have them. So you get to keep them. You are good enough. You are. I didn't know this until years later. But there was something about working there on the sales desk that the self-esteem started to grow. And I started to realize, holy shit, I really am more than I thought I was. So I started collecting all kinds of inspirational quotes and started reading all kinds of books. And I started growing and growing and growing and growing. And then got married. And then in 2006, my first son was born. And I thought, my God, I've come so far from the guy who thought he could accomplish nothing to here I am feeling like I can really take on the world. That's a big gap. I better record this. And I had this urge to write a book. I just didn't know what. And then one morning, about 3 a.m., I woke up and went, oh my God, I have it. And my boy was just a little baby. And I ran to the computer, grabbed a stack of paper off the printer, and ran downstairs to the kitchen table and just started scribbling and had the first parable talking about, I made it a farming parable about planting seeds and reaping the harvest. What this turned into 2 years later is this book here. So the book is Why Not Me? The Keys to Unlock Your Power and Release Your Potential. The reason I wrote this thing, now keep in mind, I was a guy who thought he was worth zero. And here I am writing a book? What the hell? A book on success and achievement? It just doesn't make sense. But I knew how far I'd come and all the things that I'd learned. So I put them in here. And the reason I put them in here was for my kids. Because if I get hit by a bus, it was not easy collecting this information and learning this. So I put it in a book. Here it is. Wrote a book. Now, anybody can write a book. You just got to do it. But the fact that I finished it and I completed it and I didn't fail, that was pretty cool. And it felt good because it was a big project. It took a couple years, but I saw it to its completion, got it published. That feels good because you got to finish what you start. If you finish what you start, then you're going to have something to be proud of. 2 months after it was published, a submission from that book won an International Literary Award for its contributions to human potential. An International Literary Award for its contributions on human potential. So this made me as about 36 when I did that. Do you think it's helped my self-esteem? It still didn't. So not only did I finish the book, not only did it win an International Literary Award, I still didn't think much of myself at all. I didn't give myself much credit. So the point of this isn't, it certainly isn't bragging, because I don't feel I have anything to brag about. I really don't. The point of this is that no matter what you've achieved, it doesn't fill your cup, and it doesn't make you feel any better about yourself until you get your programming fixed. And this is what I've learned. T. Harv Eckert, if you don't know who he is, please Google him. T. Harv Eckert once said at this thing I went to in Anaheim that the number one thing is your programming. Now, your programming, who you are, it happens by the age of 7. So whatever tapes that are rolling in your head, it is pretty much fixed by the age of 7. And when I took sociology in college, they said 8. Close enough. So what type of environment were you in between birth and the age of 7? Was it nurturing? Was it an environment where you were supported and where you believed that you were able to achieve something? Whatever it was, it set the course for the rest of your life by the age of 7, which has me so terrified as a father because my kids are already past that age. I'm like, oh God, you know what? I hope I didn't screw them up too bad. But by the age of 7, so if you are stuck, what's been able to finally break through my glass ceiling, in addition to other books like this, like they're a good idea to have. There's all kinds of personal development books. Read them. Just don't stop. And it helps. But you have to get through the programming. So through Veterans Affairs, because I've been in therapy for the last couple of years because of PTSD, because of my service, suffering because of things that happened during the war. But part of that is going through the childhood stuff, because that's the foundational shit. That's the stuff before the age of 7 that really sticks with who you are and how you feel about yourself. And really, the stuff up until age of 16 was the big stuff for me. And once I changed how I looked at those things, it changed my relationship with my father, which is a big deal, because we never got along, and we would fight. Loved each other, always loved each other, but never got along for various reasons. And once I started to understand why we didn't get along, and start to understand that some of the things that happened to me, the beatings, the abuse, when I started to put them in their proper perspective, I was able to let go and to forgive. And once I was able to do that, I could just feel the weight come off my shoulders, and I could start to feel like, oh, okay. If you don't deal with this shit, it's tough to raise your self-esteem. And if you're trying to do something bigger in life, it is tough to not self-sabotage unless you've got your self-esteem in check. And there's an old maxim that you can only rise to your level of your self-concept. So if you feel that you are here, you can't go beyond that. If you feel you're here, then you can't go beyond that. How you feel about yourself, you have to feel like you're up here, that you can achieve anything, that you don't have a ceiling. And it's tough to do that until you get your childhood stuff freaking sorted out. And everything that happens on top of that is force amplifiers. The stuff that's contributed to post-traumatic stress disorder. The numerous traumatic injuries on my neural pathways. Those are amplified by childhood stuff. At least that's my understanding of it. I'm certainly not a psychologist, but that's how I'm looking at it. So for you to break through, to start playing a bigger game, you've got to look at yourself that way. And the way to look at yourself that way is by getting your childhood shit resolved as best as you can. So I wrote that first book. Was never proud of it. It was just something I did. And although people thought I had a huge ego and that I was arrogant and all this stuff, it's like, no, man, that's not true at all. I may have came across that way. I can understand that, but no, I never thought that I was any kind of a big deal. And then I only made money when I was a realtor the first time for 4 or 5 years. I did well and had a good income coming in. Then lost it all. The reason I lost it all is because I didn't have my shit sorted out, even though I wrote that kick-ass book, and it really is a good book. Why Not Me? The Keys to Unlock Your Power and Release Your Potential. It's a really, really good book. But I didn't believe it in myself. My self-concept, and I just wasn't aware that my self-concept was still low. So that's why lottery winners, when they get $1 million, they tend more often than not to lose it all. The reason that they lose it all is because their self-concept is just not there. And you treat yourself in according to your self-concept. So they feel like frauds, that they didn't deserve the money. So subconsciously they find ways to lose it or blow it. That's what they do. So when I had money, I found ways to lose it or blow it. And with it, the marriage. I don't know, chicken or the egg. But the first marriage was gone, destroyed. Our financial life was gone, destroyed. And I just cracked 40 years old. And I'm just recovering now, just starting to. I'm 48. And wrote another book. But this time, because of all the work I've done through Veterans Affairs, through therapy every week for the last year and a bit, I'm starting to realize that I can reach for more and I can do more. So this time, with this book here, The Home Seller's Bible for Homeowners, Agents, and Investors. This bad boy, look how fat that thing is. 270 some odd pages. But with kick-ass endorsements too. Got all kinds of great endorsements on the back. But this book here, I actually feel pride in this book. It was an F load of work, 1,000+ hours. And that book is going to help me launch my real estate business into the stratosphere. And I'm going to do really, really well. I'll do better than I used to do. And I'll keep it this time because the self-esteem is there. Like I feel like I deserve to do well and to be successful again. If you don't believe you deserve it, it's pretty tough to keep it. So this time, when it's cooking, I'll be able to keep it. I'm 48. And I'm just rebuilding and starting to get some traction now. So the initial impetus for this was I got a real soft spot for late bloomers because I'm a late bloomer. I've had a couple flashes of success earlier on and they burnt out and I lost them. But if you are in your 40s or 50s, 60s, I mean, Colonel Sanders didn't really, I think he was late 60s, Colonel Sanders. He's working at a freaking gas station. At a gas station is where he was working in his late 60s. But he kept making this chicken And somebody picked it up, and away he went, and now he's a global icon. He sold his interests in the chicken right away, but was kept on as the spokesperson for the chicken, like a mascot almost, until his dying days. He was in his late 60s. He was broke working in a gas station until his late 60s. But what a way to finish this game of life. You know, he's a global icon now with his weird... Anyway, so Colonel Sanders. I figured, geez, if that bugger can go from zero to hero in his late 60s, you know, I'm not even 50 yet, so I can still do it. And once you get your self-esteem sorted out, you realize, like, hey, I actually got something to say. I'm on a camera right now doing a podcast, sharing my story, because I think it's worth sharing. Because I think there's a chance that somebody else is going through the same stuff that I've gone through, only I've finally broken through. I've broken through to the point where I thought that I could write a book like this. You can't write it if you don't think you have anything to say. You can't. But I know I have something to say. So I wrote this son of a gun, and here it is. And it is freaking awesome, and it's going to help people. It's going to help people whether they're selling on their own or get more money while they're selling through the realtor. It's going to help people. And I'm a helpy kind of guy. So it makes me feel good. And it was a big accomplishment. I got 10 contributing authors. 10 contributing authors. At least half the content is direct for me. The remaining is from the 10 contributing authors. And I put these 10 people together. So I feel pretty good about that. And it's going to help them, and it's going to help their businesses while they market. But the point is, I'm not here to talk about my books. The point is that you can do more than you think you can do, but you got to get your self-esteem figured out first. And self-esteem is really, it's about the truth. All of us are living in cages with the doors wide open. Most of us anyway. Steven Spielberg said that, and just hit me right between the eyes. If you are feeling like there's more out of life, but you just don't know how to go get it, the path will present itself when you get your self-esteem figured out, when you get your childhood shit figured out. So if you don't have access to therapy, keep reading the personal development books. There's lots of them. Watch who you hang out with, because we are all products of your environment. I don't care who you are or how strong you think your character is. The top 5 people that you hang out with, that you spend time with, family, friends, spouse, whoever, look at their attitudes, look at the way they look at life, and then look in the mirror, because your attitudes and the way you look at life are the same. And the net result of that is wealth is one of them. The type of projects that you take on or don't is the difference between guzzling beer and watching Netflix all the time, or using your spare time for something that lights you up. You can either recreate and twiddle your thumbs, or you can actually have some sort of a project on the go that makes you feel good about yourself in life. And it doesn't have to be with a monetary reward. If you're an artist, then be an artist. Make that time. Don't dream about art. Make that art. I'm a writer. It's my happy place. It's a lot of work, but it's work that I enjoy. If I'm not writing, I'm only being half of what I am. So what is it that gets you up in the morning? Because if you're not getting up in the morning, then you're just in this big depression of life. Figure it out and do that thing. For me, it's writing. For other people, it's whatever it is for you. Go do that. If you can't make money at it, that's okay. Just do it anyway so that you don't feel like half alive. If you're suffering from depression and don't know it, chances are nothing gets you going. So if you find that really nothing is interesting to you, you're depressed. You are uninspired. Get help. Because if nothing is interesting to you other than playing video games and watching TV and getting drunk, if those activities, avoidance activities, are the only things that you're interested in, you are suffering from depression. I guarantee it. Get help. For the longest time, all the things that I used to love, I couldn't feel it. I was numb to it. Going for walks in the woods or climbing a mountain used to really do something for me. And for years and years and years, it did nothing for me. Nothing. It didn't recharge my batteries. It didn't do what it used to do. Because I was depressed. I just didn't know I was depressed. Didn't realize it. If you're sleeping in till noon on a regular basis, you're depressed and or uninspired. There's a saying that there's no such thing as lazy. There's only the uninspired. Maybe. But whatever it is for you, a person needs a project, whether it's refinishing a car or a motorcycle, art, learning a new language, whatever it is, pick something and achieve it. Because if you want to build some self-esteem, you have to have some achievements. You have to have something to look back on and say, you know, I did something that most people don't do. I did that. I did it. If it doesn't have a financial reward, that's fine. Just do it anyway. Because that's what life is about. It's about stretching yourself. It's about pushing. It's about challenging yourself. What can I do? What can I do? And you don't have to compare yourself to others. If it's something that lots of other people achieve too, okay, that's all right. Just go do it. Go do it. Do something more than what you're doing right now. Take the first step, whatever that is. Whether it is committing to not sleeping in anymore, going to the gym one day a week, painting one picture a year, doing one podcast a week, whatever it is, pick something and commit to it and treat yourself. Treat yourself well. Because if you don't, nobody else will. Look around yourself. Look at your friends. Look at their attitudes. Look at where they're going. If they're going nowhere, you're going nowhere. You're going to get what they got. You want something else? Get different friends or no friends at all. But once you change your goals, your friends will change. If your friends are telling you that your ideas and your dreams are stupid, you need new friends. Because what they are is, it's the crab bucket theory. Do you know this story? When you have a bucket of crabs on the boat, every now and then one of the crabs starts clawing to the top. And just as he's about to go escape the bucket of crabs, some other crab will always reach up, grab him, and pull him back into the bucket. Are your friends doing that to you? Is your family doing that to you? Are you trying to crawl out of the bucket, but you keep getting pulled in by those that don't want you to outshine them? You gotta step away from those people. Small dose those people. You don't have to cut them out of your life completely, but you definitely have to small dose them. You can see them at Christmas. That's enough. If you're married to one, you have to get out of that marriage right now. Are you a crab trying to leave the bucket for a better life? If that's you, who's trying to pull you back into that bucket? Whoever's trying to pull you back into that bucket is who you have to avoid. You cannot be around people that are doing that. And the second you make that decision, you find yourself in a new bucket. A bucket of other crabs trying to lift you up and push you over. Or bunch of crabs that are outside that bucket that are trying to pull you out and take you on their ride. That's how it actually is. There's this idea that successful people are all a bunch of selfish assholes. Well, some are, but I've got lots of friends that are multimillionaires. I've met a billionaire or two, but mostly multimillionaires that are in my immediate circle. And they are all encouraging. None of them are trying to pull me back into any kind of a bucket. They're trying to help me become more. Are you trying to get out of the bucket? Change who you're dealing with. Change who you're spend time with. Turn them into small doses. Anybody that wants to hold you back. Pick a project and just start doing it. I think that's everything I wanted to say today. If this means anything to you, if I've connected to you in any way, please make a comment. Thank you, and God bless.